Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Becky, and I am doing a challenge where I'm talking to my camera at some point in some way every single day for all 31 days of August, and then posting that to YouTube. So today, my main focus is working through this whole next chapter of life after getting laid off. And I created this spread a couple days ago. I created it on Friday to kind of mainly help me through getting these tasks done for work. That was my main thing. And then looking ahead at what I knew I was going to need to do right away. And then I put over here on this side that I want to be brainstorming what I want the next chapter to look like. Well, this weekend, a quote came to mind called, uh, well, not called. A quote came to mind that says, "A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action makes your dreams come true." And that is attributed to Greg Reed. And so I think instead of brainstorm here, I'm just going to take a little bit of washi tape, red washi tape, and cover that up. And we are going to use this section instead to dream. So if you were with me when I did the sticker haul recently, I got these cute little sunflower stickers. So I am just going to write dream on one of these. It's basically the same thing, brainstorm and dream, but we're going to call it dream. And then we're going to, so today you're going to dream with me, and then tomorrow what we're going to do is take that dream, put dates to things, make it an action plan, and give ourselves a little task list. Now, this was an oops sheet, so it didn't come off the sticker paper really nicely, and that's because it's an oops sheet. That's okay. We're not upset about that. But I think that having this dream here will be a little bit nicer than brainstorm. Brainstorm feels a little businessy. That was in the mindset I was in at the time, and that's all right. That's why we have things like washi tape and stickers. We can cover things up and move on. So today, you're just going to dream with me. If you're stuck in a similar situation, one of the most important things that you can do for yourself is to move up and forward and not just stumble forward into the same thing, is to really sit down between jobs, chapters, whatever you want to call it, and really figure out what you want life to look like. So, what do I want from my job? That's one of the questions that I wrote down here. And so I'm going to put here that I really like working remotely. Uh, I worked in person at my last job when I started, and I had an hour-long commute each way to and from work. And many, many, many days I would go in, and other than saying hello, I wouldn't talk to anyone. And I felt so silly because the only time I would ever talk to anybody was on the computer, on Zoom. Even my boss, who was in the same office, would Zoom when he wanted to talk about an issue, because usually he wanted to talk about something that had to do with one of the drawings, and it was on the computer. And it was easier for us to each look at our own screens while we talked rather than to talk in person and try and share a screen. So I often felt like I was making that really long commute, that really long drive for nothing. So I really like working remotely. So let's leave that in there. What else do I want from my job? I want to be creative. The opportunity to be creative every day. In my last job, I didn't really get that chance. I started off getting to be creative, but I had a coworker who was very excellent at what she did, but she really loved the creative side of architecture. And rather than allowing us to share the creative aspect, because I tend to be very, very good at the organization side, tended to leave me to all of the kind of technical details. And I am very good at that. I don't particularly enjoy it. So in my next job, I want the opportunity to be creative, and I'm trying to keep these positive. So I don't want to say less technical responsibilities. I want to I don't want to list things that I don't want. So let me instead write minimal technical tasks. That works. In my work-life balance, I like having, I'm going to put something up here. I like my morning coffee outside. I've been doing that on weekends, and I really enjoy that. I don't do coffee right when I wake up, so usually I'll work for a couple hours and then I'll go and have my morning coffee outside. And that is something I really enjoy. Some personal goal priorities. I'm kind of looking at all of these things at once as I'm dreaming here about what life is going to look like, because I don't want to fill in all of one area and not think about other areas of my life that I might want to address. So one of the personal goals is to reduce body weight by half. That may sound like a lot, but I have a lot to lose. So that is definitely a personal goal. I think that's going to mean that I need to make room for some exercise. So in my work-life balance, I would like time to go to the gym. And wouldn't it be great if my job had a gym reimbursement? My last job did have a gym reimbursement, but you had to go a certain number of times and then you had to prove it, and it ended up being so much work that it was so hard to achieve it, that it made it a bit challenging. In terms of connections, I do really want coworkers I enjoy talking to. And then I'm just going to put a line here. We're going to try and fill in this whole page just with writing. And so rather than just draw set lines down here, I want this all to kind of meld together. And so we're just going to draw these connecting lines between one side and the other. And that way everything will kind of connect to one another and hopefully be a cohesive, what do I want life to look like package. All right, so I want time to go to the gym. want to walk 8,000 steps daily. Which means for work, I need to have some time to work and walk on the pad. I have a walking pad that I can use at some times when I'm working, but it needs to be during meetings or things like that when I don't have to do a lot of typing or fiddly mouse work, because that gets a little bit hard. So I want time that I can do that. Some of my personal goals, I want to make sure I have time to film YouTube videos. Then we'll just draw a line right here. And I need to find female friends in St. Louis. Since we moved here, I haven't really had an opportunity to get out and network much. So let's put that I would like to network my job. I have not gotten out and gotten a chance to network much, so I haven't really met a lot of people yet in the area, which means mainly if I'm doing things, it's my partner and I doing them together, which is fine. We enjoy each other's company. But I want to make sure that I am not overly relying on him for everything. He can't be my only relationship. So I want to make sure that I'm finding other people that I can spend time with. Let's see, what else do we want? As I'm brainstorming, I'm not used to dreaming. I'm not used to doing this where I'm talking through everything. I'm used to just kind of starting to write freehand. And I think that talking through it may be kind of impeding my ability to just kind of write and continue to write and just go from one thought to the next. But I think that it's kind of an important exercise to walk through with people. Because if you haven't done this, this is actually a really, really good way to start bringing your life into alignment with what you really want. So I'm not just looking for the next paycheck. I'm looking for the next opportunity to get closer to living more of that dream life. And so knowing what that looks like becomes incredibly important. Let's see. Well, speaking of paychecks, I want this job to pay six figures. I was close to that at my last job, and I would like it to be close to that at this job as well, this next job. We'll Put in some lines here. Well, I shouldn't have to write this, but if I don't, I might forget. So let's write in Tuesday date nights. My weekly call with Kim. And calls with Dana, Valerie, and Susie. These are friends that I talk to on a regular basis, and I want to make sure that that continues. I would like, in my personal goals, I would like to find time for art. So time to make art. Let's go with weekly. Let's also add in that I want time to write. I have a story in progress. I'm sure many, many people do. But I would like to have time to write that, because that is one of my personal goals. You can actually take a look back. I do have some goal setting in here. I want to add in, I'm going to put down here that I want 3 weeks vacation. My new job. I definitely want the opportunity to grow professionally. I like working with clients. And yeah. I want minimal team building after hours. You know, some companies want you to hang out with your coworkers. I want to have coworkers that I enjoy talking to, but I don't usually make friends with my coworkers. People that I work with are people that I work with, and I enjoy spending time with them at work in a professional capacity. But I don't tend to move those relationships into my personal life until I no longer work for the company. So I may keep in touch with coworkers that I really enjoyed in the past, but I don't usually want to hang out with them outside of work. I have my family and my friends, and those are the people that I want to be spending time with. I would like to find some book clubs that I enjoy. One of my personal goals, and see, now I'm starting to crisscross here, so I'm actually going to take out this pencil board and put it down here so I'm not smudging what I just wrote. But one of my personal goals is to travel. So I want to put travel, and I want 4 domestic plus 1 international trip annually. And I want to be able to go hiking. So that's part of my work-life balance. And it'll also fill in this little space here. There we go. So as you can see, it's interesting because this work-life balance and the personal goals kind of relate to one another. You know, I want time to make Art Weekly. That is kind of work-life balance, but it is also a personal goal and priority. And so these are kind of all going to end up running together a little bit. And then down here, you know, who I'm wanting to connect to on a personal level, but also on a professional level, does kind of relate to what I want from my job. And the connections that I want to make, they could be connections between work and personal. Let's see. I would like to find, and this is a connection and a work thing, I'd like to find an architect mentor. There's a lot of talk about in architecture school about finding a mentor, and I never did find one, but I think that would be really nice to have somebody that's been in the business. I'll put here, time to bike ride. Add that to work-life balance. It's not particularly a goal, but we do have some e-bikes, and that is something that I want to be able to incorporate into life. Kind of like, you know, I want to reduce my body weight, so I'm finding time to go to the gym. So the reducing the body weight is the priority, but in the work-life balance, I need to leave time for that. And I'm specifically not putting them next to each other. I'm not trying to relate anything to one another here. I'm just kind of dreaming and adding things to different areas as I feel like. It might not even all make sense with these headings, but in the end, what I have here will kind of help me form a blueprint going forward. Oh, we definitely want to be able to go paddle boarding. We have paddle boards, so getting to be able to use them. We've been scouting some locations, and it has been, believe it or not, too hot to paddleboard around here. It's been, upwards of 100, and just felt like an icky time to be sitting in the sun all day baking. But now that it's starting to cool off a little bit, we definitely want to make sure that we can get out and do those things. So I'm also going to put here Renaissance Fair. And festivals, because we do like going to festivals, just in general. All right, so those are some of the things for work-life balance. I really need to think about the hours for work-life balance. I want to have a maximum of 45 hours of work per week. I ended up in my last job at the end of the time when our work was getting slow. We were down to 40 to 45 hours a week, and that was actually really, really nice. Prior to that, there were quite a few, 60-hour weeks with 2-hour commutes every day, and that is just exhausting. So here I'm going to put ARE reimbursement. I do still need to take my tests to get my architecture license. That is those tests, and a lot of firms reimburse you for that. So if I do decide that I'm going to stay in architecture and I want to pursue licensing, then that ARE reimbursement becomes important. I do here want updated references on LinkedIn. I put that with connections because that's going to be based on, some of the people that I know, not necessarily work. So let's see. Gonna add time to practice bread making. I have been working on improving my sourdough skills, and so I'd like to have that time. I would like time to work on canning. And because I do a lot of canning, I have a little spread here in the back of my journal with all of my canning pantry items. So it's important that I have time to continue doing that. And oh, look, I smudged. That's all right. It's not going to hurt anything. Some other priorities. I want time for meditation. We're going to be quiet for a minute. Okay, I had a couple things come to me really quickly. So I added in that I want company provided equipment because I don't want to have to utilize my own equipment and the wear and tear on my own equipment, like a laptop, things like that. And I would like good health insurance. The last company I was at actually had not great health insurance. Okay, but not great. So I'd like to have good health insurance. I would like some time to go to coffee shops. So I'm gonna call this coffee shop friend chats, I guess. I don't necessarily want to call it dates because that seems weird because I'm obviously not dating any friends, but I'd like to make some friends that I could go and, have coffee with occasionally. I'd like to be able to have some social lunches. Maybe that's with clients. Maybe that's with friends. I'd like to be able to do that once in a while. Sometimes it's nice in the middle of the day to just get out and be able to connect with another human being and talk to another human being. I'm being very quiet here and because I'm trying to think of anything else that I might want to add in. I'm not really thinking of anything. I'm gonna probably sit with this. We're at a half an hour now, and that's usually a good time for me to do this. A good time frame. I don't like to leave it too long because if it's not at the forefront of my mind, it's probably going to be more of a distraction than something I actually really want to do. So I want this to be things that I actually really want in my life and not things that are on the outer fringes that maybe aren't as important, but will actually kind of get in the way of the things that are important. Everybody's list like this is going to be different. You may have different areas that you're looking at in your life. You may have, in fact, I'm sure you have different priorities, different things that you want out of, jobs and your work-life balance, all of those different things. It's different for everybody, and that's okay. What I will probably do going forward is I'll come in and fill in some of these empty spaces with maybe a little bit of doodling or some stickers, things like that, that will just kind of tap into the creative side of my brain. The side of my brain that is going to help me take this and turn this into something more concrete, more of a plan. I don't necessarily want to just sit and write this all out and dream without turning it into something concrete. Because if you don't write down the plan and you don't then break it down into actionable steps, this is just going to stay here on this page as a dream. It's not going to find its way into the next step. So I want to make sure that I do something with this, that it doesn't just become something to look back on for posterity and go, look at all those things I wanted to do that I never did. I want to make sure that I'm taking action on this. So if you want to see how that works, come back tomorrow. Tomorrow we will take this and turn it into an action plan. Actually, we might do it over the course of 2 days. We will take some pages here. We'll do one for the job hunt and how we're going to handle that. We'll do one for maybe planning the kind of beginning of the gym phase and how we're going to handle that, because that is a priority, going to the gym. And then we'll take maybe a couple pages here and do some ideal week brainstorming, what my ideal week would look like. And so we'll do that over the course of the next couple days. And so I hope that you will join me for those if you're interested. I will, as I upload more videos, go through and link them one after another so that you can just click on the video on the end screen and it'll take you to the next one if there is one. But for right now, I'm going to leave it there. That's going to be where I'm at for today. And I will talk to you guys later. Hope that helped maybe get you guys in the mood to do a little brainstorming. Maybe you did some brainstorming with me. If you did, that is absolutely wonderful. I love that. Tell me what your top priorities are, and maybe we can help figure out how to achieve them together. I look forward to talking to you guys again tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.